questions, please, for our illustrious panel? Yep, everyone?
Hello, thanks for the very interesting talk. It's very inspiring, and you open our eyes to new innovation, to the future. I noticed that both of you talk about the value for the industry coming from the marketing for brands trying to sell their product and service to users. As a brand, it's good also because we want to sell more service. But as a user, most of the users don't want to be sold something they were not ready to buy. So I wonder what part of the non-marketing service we can provide to those users, like value-added solution. For RCS, for example, you mentioned authentication. It's a very good use case for users to have more trust in the authentication they use. Or like payment service. Currently, we all know it's still complex to pay one time, like a ticket for an event. You still need your credit card, you still need an SMS OTP code, and so on. Do you see any other service which could bring more value to the user directly, not to the brand through marketing, but to the user, and that could grow in the future?
Should I pick that from an RCS perspective? Mic on? Yep, okay. Today, Apple has not got integration for Apple Pay, for Google Pay as part of the RCS stack. I'm sure that will come. The RCS that we see today is still based on the GSMA standard, which obviously predates things like Apple Pay and Google Pay. But I'm sure it will change in the future. Apple are already doing that on Apple Messages. So I'm sure that payment will come. Yes, I mean, so this concept of basic RCS is all more around notifications to the user of your parcel is being shipped out to you today, or your dentist appointment is due. That's more of a service than necessarily a sales opportunity. But I think, and I touched on it briefly, this idea of involving AI in order to drive customer care centres. We all know that customer care centres, contact centres, are incredibly expensive to operate. People get very frustrated. They have to spend a long time on hold when they get to speak to a person who might not necessarily be native to their country, all of these challenges. And any time I get the opportunity to engage with a chatbot first, I always take it because I can do it at my own time and my own speed, and I can explain myself and edit my responses rather than having to necessarily talk on a bad phone signal. So that's where I want to see RCS going, is more into that customer care, customer value space. Sure, it's making money today and it's providing great return on investment on promotions. And by the way, it's probably worth saying that Google are very stringent on ensuring that when sender agents are set up, users can opt out and opt out easily. We have to demonstrate that. And users can also block individual agents on the handset very, very easily as well. So they do take a lot of care and attention over making sure that customers don't feel they're being spammed by this technology as well. I hope that answers everything.
Right, any more questions? Please raise your paddle in case you have a question for these guys.
Hi, Stuart. I have a question on RCS. Chris Leonard's from Stereosys. I was at the birth of RCS when it was still called CPM back in, I think, 2004. Could you give us some statistics on the numbers in terms of uptake, devices, traffic, that kind of stuff after almost 20 years?
Sure. So, and as I mentioned earlier, RCS is being embedded into Android handsets natively. It's what Android users use when they're communicating P2P. Because they're using it P2P, it means it's open for A2P as well. So at the recent I/O event, Google announced 800 million monthly active users. Informally, we'd heard it was already 900 million. I think Google are already sandbagging. And I think we're pretty close to being at 1 billion devices. As the Android devices go through their refresh cycle, all the new devices are coming out. It's been part of the Android stack since version 5.1 Lollipop. So it's actually pretty old. It is a little bit more fiddly than SMS. It does require the user to opt in. They need to turn on chat messaging. A little bit of education has to go around that. Depending on their mobile network, it can be a little bit fiddly. Not like mobile operators to make things fiddly. But we are seeing good growth. Google have concentrated on 9 key markets: Canada, USA, Brazil, Mexico, UK, France, Spain, Germany, and Italy, and India. Germany is fully open, but it's not a Google target. So there are 9 Google target markets that they've opened up fully. We have full access to those markets. Around 50% of users, actually in Brazil and Mexico, are now RCS enabled. So those markets are growing very, very rapidly. And we're going to see more and more expansion coming in the years to come as well.
Yeah. If you can raise your paddle when you have a question, it's just easier for the people to see.
Hi, this is Ihab from Latro. I've been in the market for quite some time, and we have all seen the SMS, and this is a very general question. The SMS A2P started and it peaked as per what we have discussed this morning, and then a better alternative was found in the market, and people just now not using it at all. I see that that's for the P2P. I see that, do you think that the A2P is going into the same cycle now? So operators are looking at the A2P as the chance of making money for SMS. But are they actually, with the pricing structure that they are putting, actually encouraging people to find a better way that they can reduce their use of A2P? We've seen flash calling being in the market. We've seen other mobile applications, actually, and OTT players trying to find and use tokens instead of sending A2P OTP messages. So how do you see this going and impacting the market from the A2P space? Thank you.
Talk about that, Rob, or should I take that?
No, I think it's another RCO.
Okay. We are seeing, especially in these inflationary times, we're seeing a lot of pressure from our enterprise customers, large enterprise customers, around reducing their costs for SMS. The CPaaS providers are being hugely squeezed in the middle between enterprises demanding lower prices and operators actually increasing their A2P prices along with their mobile tariffs as part of the inflationary pressure. It's a dangerous time because it is pushing usage away. What I would point to is actually the US market. It's notable that the use of A2P SMS in the US market is still very, very high. My manager is based in the US, and he notices whenever he orders his food from a takeout company, he typically gets 6 or 7 SMS messages for every single order that he places. You don't see that in Europe because of our A2P pricing is that much higher. We've got this kind of elasticity effect. The lower you price it, the more traffic you get, the more revenue you work on. And there's other issues as well that are driving the market, AIT, which I mentioned earlier, and also things like some of these SMS monetization deals out there that are allowing providers to effectively set their own price at very, very high margins. So SMS is... I've got a lot of confidence in SMS because it is still, and will remain for the foreseeable future, the only ubiquitous channel. However, there is a huge threat, and it's a threat to the mobile operators as well as the CPaaS providers, that if we continue to try and squeeze too much money out of it without innovation on top of it, brands will go to Instagram, they will go to WhatsApp, they will go to these other channels. There's a new pricing change come down from WhatsApp, which I think is live next month. That is aimed squarely at capturing particularly OTP revenues away from SMS. And that's a trend that we need to look out for.
I have a question for you, Rob, and it's on operators exploring CPaaS. How do you think that they can, what is the first step they should be taking? I mean, they have maybe an SMS business, maybe they're also doing RCS, but how can they get involved more in that? How can they learn what the opportunity is for them?
I think what's really important for an operator is to do really a customer-first approach in all of this. Look at the customer, look at their own salespeople, because what I find in many cases, there's a huge disconnect between the commercial team that talks to enterprises and customers and the, let's say, the network or the technical or the product management teams that are still building on their old stuff. You know what happens when you give a product to a product manager, right? They start to manage and guard that product. They don't talk about or think about innovation because that's not their job. So I think a key problem in many of the MNOs and telcos is that they're not structured to deal with innovation. So they're always looking, and I think you had a slide about a cart and a horse. They keep having this technology-focused approach. And I would argue maybe the switch from SMS to RCS is also really sitting there more than on the other side. And I like what you're saying about the, let's say, the over-the-top players competing more and more with the telcos, because of course they are going to do that. And we saw earlier that the trust in SMS is lower than the trust in WhatsApp. And I think that has changed over the last couple of years, right? It started out, in the old days, SMS was trusted and over the top was internet and you couldn't trust it. But now it's the other way around, because over the top is end-to-end encrypted, and everybody from WhatsApp to Apple to every provider talks about that all the time. And we all know that there's some issues with SMS and spamming and phishing and all that stuff that's happening in SMS. I tell my dad never to click on a link that he gets on his phone. He doesn't have that problem with WhatsApp. So I think that the technology focus in the telcos and the operators is the big problem. And that comes back to the leadership slides that you had at the start. You need a vision, and the vision needs to be led by customer demand. And I think we also, the nice thing of seeing this industry grow from, let's say, the 2 billion it was a couple of years ago, to the 15 billion today, to the 100 billion in 5 or 6 years, which is a nice horizon to look at, right, if you're a larger company. That 100 billion will have many different use cases. And we need to stop thinking about wanting to replace, I think, one technology with another technology, because the future is going to be omni-channel, different technologies, different solutions for different people, for different use cases, for different industries, in different regions. You mentioned Germany as sort of an outlier within Europe because of their very strong privacy and regulatory feelings. That changes that landscape. And the same is true if you look at APAC or North America. I mean, your SMS example. I'm still trying to understand how in North America robocalling has become such a big issue, which we don't really have in Europe, that they have all these stir-shaken things now, and they're starting to see the same thing with messaging. So now you have TCR that's stepping in to regulate the industry because they don't want to have a proper regulatory body over there. So all these regions worldwide are different. The segments are different. We talked a little bit earlier about how finance, healthcare, government have totally different requirements than e-commerce. So let's start to look at these different customers, segments, the different requirements they have, the different use cases, and give them all the solution that they deserve and they ask for. The market is big enough.
Great. Thank you very much, Rob, for your comments. Thank you, Stuart. We have one more question. Last question before the coffee break. And one thing this room needs is coffee, so...
I'll try not to be boring too much. So actually 2 questions. First, how do you see WhatsApp adoption in CPaaS, within CPaaS? Like, you know, why wouldn't you integrate with WhatsApp for sending communication as well? Like, you are on the, let's say, good side, as we all are, so operators, instead of Facebook, let's say. Just kidding, of course. But do you see this kind of evolution coming or not really? And the second question, more to RCS. Do you think that RCS will actually be attractive to young people, like us or even younger?
I'll take the first part because I think definitely WhatsApp integration is right there in CPaaS. CPaaS is not SMS messaging. It's messaging omni-channel. And basically, if your customer starts to interact with you on WhatsApp or Viber or Telegram or whatever flavor, you better deal with that and arrange that. So you see the CPaaS players like Vonage, Nexmo, they have these, and all of the guys, they have these omni-channel messaging thing. And they don't care what's sitting underneath. And then the local economics and the local market sort of drive where the traffic is going. So it's really then a pricing issue and a quality issue. So definitely WhatsApp is part, and it's really the value to be added is not the channel. It's not whether you're SMS or RC. It's the customer experience, the intelligence and the quality on top. And I liked what you showed, Stuart, about RCS. It can look so slick. It looks slicker in my mind than WhatsApp. And for me as a consumer, that would be the reason to switch from WhatsApp to RCS. Because I just like it. That's why I like to use iMessage on my Apple phone instead of WhatsApp. I just like the interface a little bit better. I think that's where the challenge is also for RCS going forward.
Yeah, I mean, speaking as part of Cinch, we have a huge WhatsApp business. It's an opportunity right now. Longer term, I would suggest it's probably a threat because, as we enable WhatsApp to build more and more market penetration, get more and more business, there's nothing stopping the large enterprises connecting directly, cutting us out of the picture. Us CPaaS providers have the opportunity to be intermediated in the same way as the mobile operators have, which is something we're really not used to. I didn't quite catch the question on RCS, so could you repeat that? Sorry.
I was asking whether you think that RCS will be attractive to young people, like really young people.
To young people?
Sorry?
To young people?
Yes.
Yeah, no,
yes.
Absolutely. I mean, RCS P2P and RCS A2P are two completely different conversations, really. One of my bugbears, by the way, that's just an aside, everyone knows that 98% of SMS messages are opened within X period of time. If we actually dig into that statistic, I've heard stories that was made up by somebody in a bar once because there was no number. It's not monitored, it's not tracked. I don't know where that number's come from. We know what happens with RCS messages. We see how many are opened. But I also see that my kids don't always open all their SMS messages. I don't need to know. I've seen the notification. Why bother opening it? I've got hundreds unread. I don't care. RCS is what we have. We have to deal with it. We have to work with it. I think, we get those great results on click-throughs, on purchases, on all of that stuff that I showed because people enjoy reading them and engaging with them. So it's up to us as an industry with this tool that we have to make it as compelling as possible, to make people think, I want to open this message, I want to read this, I want to be part of it. I think users will use it on a P2P basis as well, and therefore open themselves up for A2P, because it kind of replicates the iMessage experience. I speak to my friends and colleagues all over the globe on iMessage because I don't pay the mobile operators for it. RCS offers that to the Android users on the same basis.
I think this is a key point, I think. It's all about the innovation, right? The world is changing so rapidly that, and this comes back to your earlier, the slides in the morning. You're only so good as your latest innovation. And I think what we're seeing now in the world of AI, we're going to see a lot more innovation because it becomes so much cheaper and quicker to do all these crazy innovations and mashups and intelligence and blah, blah, blah. And people are going to demand it. And if you can't deliver that, then of course you're not going to get the business. So it's going to be, I think, very exciting times. And innovation is not natural to this industry. But that's what you're going to talk about for the next day and a half.
Yes, we're going to talk about that much more. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Stuart, and thank you, Rob, for your presentations. I think it was very insightful on CPaaS and where that's going. And on RCS, it's a wonder more operators aren't jumping on this, frankly. It's a clear winner. So thank you, everybody.